American man sends his entire monthly salary directly to his Vietnamese wife. She saves carefully, but not for their future together. Instead, she sends much of that money back to her parents in Vietnam, helping them build a new house and cover their living expenses. Now, he's gone on Reddit to ask one question. What did I even get married for? A man later shared his story on Reddit, but he wasn't just talking about money anymore. He started asking a bigger question. Was this just his situation, or something many other men are experiencing too? So he asked directly, do all men who marry Vietnamese women go through this? Below is the original post he shared on Reddit. So, I am wondering if men married to Vietnamese women have the same issues. I have been married for 4 years and have found much difficulty with my wife. I made the mistake of having my salary sent into her bank, and now she is extremely frugal when it comes to me spending my money. Anything I want to purchase, or general money I want to spend outside of daily expenses, my wife always has an issue with it being expensive. She hates me eating out because she always argues, I can make that at home for cheaper. However, she is always happy to lend money to others, family members, and friends without any expectations of when the money will be returned. According to her, when Vietnamese borrow money from each other, we don't expect to get that money back, and we won't pester them to return it. Surely this isn't correct? She's also always willing to send money to her parents for every little thing they do. I don't have any issue with this. I just wonder why she is so difficult when it comes to me spending money. My foreign friend also has the same issue with his Vietnamese wife, but his case is much worse. His wife makes him a flask of coffee every day to stop him spending money at cafes. I wonder, do Vietnamese men have the same difficulties? And can offer any insights on how they combat a situation like this. This is a fairly long post, filled with questions and concerns about a sensitive issue in marriage: money. The man seems genuinely surprised by the way his wife handles finances. He struggles to understand the cultural differences, especially how money is viewed within Vietnamese families. So he turned to Reddit to share his experience and seek answers. He wants to know whether other men married to Vietnamese women are facing similar situations. He also raises a broader question. Is it common in Vietnam for wives to manage their husband's finances? And if so, does that sometimes come with prioritizing support for the wife's family, even to the point of affecting their own household? In the end, he is looking for insight from men living in Vietnam. How do they deal with this situation, and what solutions have they found? This man's story is actually not uncommon. It doesn't only happen in Vietnam. It can appear in many relationships where two people have different views on money and responsibility. But before diving into deeper analysis or cultural perspectives, let's take a look at some of the most upvoted responses under his post. The top comment, with 289 upvotes, says, to paraphrase a Chinese proverb, the best time to have a conversation with your partner about how you'll manage finances is before you get married. The second best time is now. It's simple, but it hits the core issue. This is not just about culture. It's about a lack of agreement on finances from the beginning. So why did this comment resonate with so many people? Let's look at the responses. Another user wrote, honestly, man, in no world where sending your salary directly to your wife account is normal. So whether or not she is Vietnamese, Korean, Norwegian, etc., that's not the move. You guys O-head are being way too cautious, thinking that certain things are the norm with Vietnamese while they are not. If it's really the case that she is holding on to all of your money and is happy to send it to her family/relative versus letting you use it, it wouldn't be exaggerated to think she is somewhat in it for the money. I don't have a wife, but have lived with my Viet girlfriend for 3 years now. And while we have our shared budget that we both contribute, we have our own expenses. It's not a thing to have to supply your Vietnamese wife. This comment also received more than 44 upvotes. He has also lived with a Vietnamese woman, and he explained that they both contribute to shared expenses while maintaining their own personal savings. In a setup like that, the idea of financially supporting his partner's family likely doesn't arise. Let's move on to the second most upvoted comment, which received 198 upvotes. Time to have the money sent to your own bank account. Now let's take a closer look at how people responded to this idea. One reply, which received around 30 upvotes, says, "My wife tried something similar at the beginning. I told her that if we ever earned the same income, then maybe we could consider that approach. Since then, we haven't really revisited that conversation, and it's been over 14 years. This comment carries a tone of quiet frustration. It suggests a situation where the dynamic hasn't really changed over time, and the topic itself may have been avoided rather than resolved. Right below that, another comment with strong engagement states, "Vietnamese wife will stop this happen unless you are willing to get divorced and pay a big deal of money to her for separation. Best solution is run away." This perspective is clearly more extreme, reflecting a stronger emotional reaction to the situation. At this point, we've gone through several of the most upvoted comments on this post, all centered around financial dynamics in marriage, particularly in cases where one partner controls or manages most of the money. A pattern starts to emerge. Several comments suggest that men should maintain control over their own finances, for example, by having their salary sent to their own bank account. Another comment shares a long-term personal experience, where the situation has remained unchanged for over a decade. And one offers a more intense viewpoint, suggesting that change may be difficult without serious consequences. What's also interesting is the overall tone of the discussion. Many of these perspectives appear to come from men, sharing experiences that may not always be openly discussed in everyday life, but find a space on platforms like this. But before jumping to conclusions, let's pause here. Before exploring how common this situation actually is, and before sharing a perspective based on Vietnamese culture and lived experience, let's look at a few more comments. Are other men experiencing something similar? Or are these just individual cases? Let's find out. A man wrote his comment. "In my view, this kind of setup isn't always the norm. In my family, we had a similar approach, but we were often reminded that every household is different. In many cases, the wife may manage most of the finances, but that doesn't apply to everyone. Oh, so in his family, his wife manages the finances." Now let's move on to another comment that received a significant number of upvotes. "I used to work in an office with about a dozen Vietnamese women. Many of them shared the view that the husband's salary is often managed by the wife. From what they explained, this approach can help keep household finances organized and encourage more mindful spending." He shares a perspective based on his real-life experience. He shares an interesting experience from working with many female colleagues. From that, he draws a perspective. In some cases, women may be more effective at managing finances, possibly because they tend to be more disciplined and more mindful about avoiding unnecessary spending. Oh, right below this, there's also another comment that received a lot of upvotes, 38 likes. "I married my Vietnamese wife last year, and she's been very good with managing money. I've had no issues so far. She's very caring, and when we go out, she often encourages us to spend wisely, which I really appreciate." Oh, this guy seems really lucky. It looks like he found the right person. He probably has a very happy marriage. Good for him. Let's move on to another comment from a Singaporean man who is married to a Vietnamese woman. "Singaporean with a Vietnamese wife here. We've been together for 8 years. I also choose to have my income managed within our household in a similar way. From my experience, my wife is quite careful with spending, especially when it comes to herself. She often prioritizes the needs of our family, and I always remind her that our money is meant for all of us. At the same time, she's very supportive when it comes to me and our daughter." Oh, this guy seems quite lucky as well. His wife appears to be very mindful with money. He likely has a happy family. Oh, I can see a comment right here. This one seems very close to the main topic, and quite similar to the situation of the person in today's post. It has received around 27 upvotes and quite a few responses. Let's take a look at it. In my experience, supporting family members financially can be quite common in some situations. That said, it's important for couples to communicate openly and stay aligned on how money is being used. I've heard of cases where large amounts of money, sometimes even tens of thousands of dollars, were shared with extended family, which later became a source of tension when expectations weren't clearly discussed. When both partners are transparent and make decisions together, it usually works well. But when things are handled without clear communication, it can lead to misunderstandings and strain in the relationship. And right below, someone who is married to a Vietnamese woman responded, "Yeah, there was a time when my wife wanted to lend her sibling around 300 million VND, roughly $12,000, to help with buying a house. I shared that I wasn't comfortable with that, especially given the size of the amount. Personally, I would only consider lending smaller amounts, even within my own family. For me, it's important that both partners feel comfortable and are on the same page when it comes to financial decisions like this." It seems that this man has gone through something very similar to what we saw earlier. And in many cases, situations like this may not be uncommon, especially when two people come from different backgrounds and have different expectations about money and family. In Vietnam, family plays a very important role. For many people, supporting parents or relatives is not just a choice. It's often seen as a responsibility. It's also quite common for multiple generations to live together, which strengthens that sense of connection and mutual support. Another factor is the difference in income and currency value. Money sent from countries like the US, UK, or Australia can go much further in Vietnam due to the cost of living. For example, the average annual income in Vietnam is around $5,000, which means even a moderate amount from abroad can have a significant impact. Some people may view international relationships as an opportunity to improve financial stability. Others simply see it as building a life together, based on trust, partnership, and shared goals. And this is where things start to get complicated. Because at the end of the day, this might not just be about culture. It might be about expectations that were never clearly discussed from the beginning. So let me ask you, if you were in this situation, would you be comfortable sharing most of your income like this? Where would you draw the line between helping your partner's family and protecting your own future? Do you think this is something influenced more by culture or by individual choices? And one more question. Should financial decisions in a marriage be fully shared, or should each person keep a level of independence? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments.